Hello and welcome to this session where we are going to interview Dr. Shobhakar Dhakal, who is as you know, an energy specialist. We already heard from him in one of the previous presentations. Welcome, Dr. Shobhakar.
Thank you, Victor.
Okay. Nowadays it is increasingly becoming evident that both climate change, adaptation and mitigation are simultaneously required, to develop robust mechanisms to combat climate change. How do you see the role of cities in this?
Well, I would say that the role of city is very, very fundamental and very, very instrumental, be it mitigation or be it adaptation. The role of city is important even simply from the demographic viewpoint.
Right.
Almost 50% of the global population lives in urban area, and if you look at some of these numbers, from now to 2050, almost 2.8 billion people are going to be added in cities. So this whole century had been dominated by the trend of urbanization. So
Right.
I think city had a very special role to play. And also if you look at the recent IPCC report, mitigation report, it shows that urban areas contribute somewhere between 71 to 76% of
Right.
global energy-related CO2 emission. Now, moreover, cities are already very active. Thousands of cities have already doing climate change action plan, and more or less urban area, city are the hotbed for policy experimentation. They are a place for innovation, so they can contribute a lot for more mitigation and adaptation. So without very, very active role of city, I would argue that we can't mitigate or we can't adapt very well.
Okay. Yes. A little while ago you just mentioned about policy. How do you think the governments should approach this policy aspect with regards to climate change?
All of us know that the climate change addressing is something, we don't address climate change directly.
Okay.
What we do is that we embed climate change into a lot of things that we already do.
Right.
Basically, climate change has to be integrated into the existing policies, into the existing plan and actions. So from that viewpoint, I think from the policy side, integration is a fundamental keyword.
Right.
We need an integrated policy, we need an integrated pricing, we need an integrated infrastructure. If you look at even the IPCC report says that next 2 decades is very, very instrumental.
Right.
Because as I said, the massive urbanization is going to happen. 2.8 billion people in the next couple of decades living in urban area.
Right.
So from that viewpoint, we have an opportunity, we have a window of opportunity to set the urban design correct, some of the systemic elements
Right.
that will reduce pressure, to reduce emission at the end of the pipe. I think this is one very fundamentally something very important. And from the viewpoint of the governance in particular, if you look at cities are again governed in very complex fashion.
Right.
Now roles and responsibilities has to be very, very clear. And particularly for the systemic options, which has a lot of potential, there is a lot of policy fragmentation. So how to address that? I think that is fundamentally very important.
Okay. Yeah, just to pick up on one point that you made about infrastructure. Climate change infrastructure, is an expensive business.
Right.
So how do developing countries access the different climate finance options?
Yeah, I would look at the cost issue, financing issue in 2 viewpoints.
Right.
The first is that we often say that yes, cost is expensive, definitely,
Yes.
but also we have to realize that we have not really internalized some of the externality cost of our existing system. That's why any infrastructure, any measures to address climate change looks expensive, because
Yes.
we have not internalized some of the cost associated with the other things.
Absolutely.
That's the first point. And second point, having said that, definitely we need resources, funding resources,
Right.
because particularly in the context of developing country, we don't have resources,
Right.
and all of our resources are tied with our usual stuff, either air pollution or so many other social livelihood issues tied up. So I would see that at different level, different things needs to be done.
Right.
From the international level, climate financing is fundamentally very important. We know that developed countries has already promised 100 billion US dollar
Yes.
the climate financing by 2020.
Yes.
So I think there is now how that will be used and how the urban sector can be prioritized.
Right.
I think this is very important, and what is the mechanism through which that money can be channeled. I think very important for cities. Other than that, I would also say that nationally and also locally, there could be new way of financing.
Okay.
Particularly at the national context, we see a lot of tax reform going on.
Okay.
Still, the local governments, city governments do not have very strong resource base because many of the tax reforms, what is going on, in that the local governments gets more and more financial resources. So that reorientation of the tax also very important to one way to finance, and also locally lots of activities can be done to finance, municipal bonds, some kind of new innovative financial mechanisms that can be done at locally or national scale. But of course, the international financing mechanism is very, very important, and the delivery of international financing mechanism is quite essential for cities to address climate change mitigation and adaptation.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Shobhakar.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure to talk.
Thank you.